I want to welcome y'all to the webinar today, and we're going to go through the S.A.F.E system and go through some strategies of how we are working with managers with different accounts on how to effectively use the system. And some of these strategies I hope will help you with working with the software and understanding the software better so it can help manage your safety program. So I'm going to share my screen. And just a little housekeeping where we're recording this and we are opening up the questions to ask questions as I'm going through this so that you can, we can interact on what's going on with the system here. But I think the first thing, and I talked to a lot of our customers about this when we onboard, that we follow a 90-10 rule with our customers. We can handle 90% of the safety load. And, what I talk to our customers about is think about your managers being the conductor of the orchestra, and we're your orchestra. So we're doing all of the bringing in the VEDR events, bringing in all the stuff from the ELD, handling the accidents, handling the roadside inspections, doing all those things, validating the events, making sure they make sense. We're doing the coaching with the drivers, we're doing the training with the drivers, and handling all of that. Where we need 10% from the operations managers is to back us up. And, I explained this to managers and our customers that you write the paychecks for the drivers and you have the ultimate power with the drivers. So as I go through the strategies on the system, you'll see that yes, we can do the majority of the safety load, but I need you to back our play on this to make sure that your drivers stay compliant with the system. In addition to the 90-10 rule, we have the 80-20 rule, and this is across every one of our accounts. 80% of your drivers may have one or two events in a month, really not problematic. Those are the drivers that we just don't hear much about. They're doing the right things. And then 20% of the drivers are high risk drivers that, they have the speeding problem, they have the following distance problem, they have a whole bunch of different. I was dealing with an account yesterday where a driver had 3 accidents in the last 3 months. Well, that's problematic on that driver having that many accidents in such a short time on this. So, with our system, it identifies who the problem drivers are, which gets you, your managers, focused on what you should be working with on dealing with the problematic drivers. Again, helping us with doing that and looking at the data in the system and following up with your drivers saying, hey, I saw safety identified that you have a speeding problem or a following distance problem or something like that. Just a little quick discussion with your driver that says, hey, everybody's watching, you got to correct this behavior. Then that really helps with our successful accounts to really improve their outcomes on the safety program. So what are the manager responsibilities from our accounts? And it's really updating the information in the S.A.F.E system. And I'm going to go through this after I get through the presentation portion of this, actually get into the software and go through everything. But help us do a better job and a quicker job on handling the safety by making sure that if we're missing information in the system, and I'll show you how to identify that, making sure we have your driver's up-to-date email address, their phone number, their license, their medical card. On your tractors, making sure we have the most up-to-date registration, their annual inspection, making sure we have an insurance card. A lot of accounts have this in different software solutions, and that's fine. But what we are facing is if your driver's calling us at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're pulled over on a roadside and they're missing something and they call us and they go, look, I left today and I don't have my medical card. And, can you send it to me real quick? Or, yeah, sure, we'll take care of it. It helps us with the information to be up to date in the system so we can operate efficiently. We send out to all the managers that our accounts identify as managers what's called the Monday morning report. In the Monday morning report, you should be getting those. If you are not getting those, then you need to let us know that, hey, I need to get that report. What that report is showing is the last 7 days safety information. So what a lot of our managers do is on Monday, they get that email, they open it up, they review the report, they see what's going on with their drivers, they identify one or two drivers that are having issues. They pick up the phone, they talk to the driver, they go, look, safety identified this. We know they're coaching you. We know that you're doing some training with them, but I really need you, driver, to fix whatever the behavior is. And the accounts that do that, look at that Monday morning report, look through the incidents, see what's going on, they have better outcomes with their safety. I tell a lot of people this, that safety is like a toddler. If you turn your back on the toddler, bad things are going to happen. So your managers being involved in looking at this stuff and working with your drivers, helping us out, that'll help maintain the driver in the system so they don't get disqualified, they don't get roadside violations, they don't have the accidents, and those type of things that can really help out. Now, we do have a bunch of our managers from our accounts that log into to the S.A.F.E system every day. And they do that as their Monday morning, their morning routine is, they get their cup of coffee, they got into the office, they open up S.A.F.E, they review everything, and they go through that. They'll send us questions. Hey, I saw this driver is doing this. I saw that you coached them or this. And, they ask for insights of what they can do to help solve the problem. I'll give you an example. We had a driver recently that was really struggling with following distance. We had coached the driver, we had retrained the driver, we had written the driver up, and the driver was still having following distance issues. So the solution to solve the driver behavior is the manager had to get in the truck with the driver and do a ride along and actually get out on the road and pick out a road sign and go, okay, we're coming up to the road sign, 1001, 1002, 1003. There's the proper following distance. And really what was going on with the driver is they drove their personal car that way. But identifying and having that discussion on that driver is what improved that. That was part of what we were doing. That's part of what the manager's doing, and coming up with different solutions to try to solve the driver behavior when those situations come up. So having that in place and reaching out to us and saying, look, I'm struggling with this driver, and can we do a meeting with the driver, with the manager and us, Can we do a safety meeting with the drivers? Because we have several drivers that are having issues and things like that. But working together as a team with the operations managers and us is what is going to get better results out of the system. Then on Wednesday morning, we send another email to the accounts, and this is information on what's missing out of the system. So think about licenses that are expiring, medical cards that are expiring, a cab card's missing, annual inspections missing. Again, we need that information in case your driver gets pulled over so that we can have it available to the driver. And 2 o'clock in the morning when they call us and this is going on, it also helps you stay compliant so we avoid violations on the side of the road. You may have it in, 10th Street or Driver Reach or another system and all that. But if we have it in our system, it makes us more efficient and it really helps with keeping everything up to date so that we are staying compliant on that. So going through what expectations for operations managers is try to log into the system as much as possible, review the data. That's what it's there for. Figure out what's going on. Don't turn your back on that. Use the Monday morning report to look at it. It should be your the head manager. It could be any of the other managers working in different areas that are working with your drivers. Get those managers involved. I have some accounts that force their managers to log into the system at least once a week and provide a report back to the lead manager on what they saw, what actions they're going to take, what they're doing with us to try to solve whatever the driver behavior. That's not a bad practice to put in place. So if you've got some BC managers involved, put in a procedure that says, managers, I expect you to log into the system at least once a week, looking at the Monday morning report, making sure the Wednesday missing document report is filled out correctly, and handling the data and coming up with strategies on working as a team to solve these problems. And it can just really help with keeping everything up to date. I know we send emails all the time to our customers saying, we're missing this, we're missing this, we're missing this. If you can get that information to us quickly, it helps us be more efficient to actually do a lot better job on handling your safety program. So let me go into the actual software and I'm going to go through it and go over some tips on how I want you to look at this stuff. Let me get to my questions here. Okay. All right. So we're in the software here and the front page. So you got your KIs here for the VEDR, and you keep an eye on this. The comment I'm going to tell you about on the VEDR in our system is one of the most difficult things for us to calculate the VEDR score accurately using our software is the truck utilization. So in your VEDR program under the truck utilization, it's telling you how many events you can have in each category, and then they're adding math to that on how many days out of the month you're using the truck. We use our best guesstimate on this, on how that operates for your operation. So we make our best guess on this, but it can be a fraction of a percent off from the actual VEDR source system. So our team is having to go in the source system and keep an eye on it, and in our system to try to make sure that that is current and correct. The other thing I need from the managers for the operations is to make sure that our vehicle count is right and our driver count is right. That's one of the most difficult things that we deal with is you hire a new driver. Okay, let us know that. Oh, I fired a driver. Let us know that. I have a driver that went out on work comp. Let us know that so we can put them as inactive. It's that type of stuff that keeps us up to date on better managing your program there. Then on the do not dispatch list, the goal here is it should be cleared out often. That if you see a driver on here, or you see a vehicle on here, that, okay, that's telling you there's a problem that we need fixed. And it's very simple. If you hit the do not dispatch, it tells you what's missing. I'm missing the license. I'm missing the medical card. I got past due trainings on the driver. It's telling you what's going on. And then same as the vehicles, it's telling you the same thing. Annual inspection expired, registration expired or missing. It's telling you what is missing from the system. And I'll show you how to update that in the software. But this is what I really need with our current customers and those that are thinking about using the system. Keep this list clear to 00, and then everything will work a lot better. Then on your drivers, let's say we have a driver and you go, oh, I got a new license for this driver. You can update the license number here, the issue date, the expiration. You just hit these little pencils. It brings up the dialog box. You fill in the new information and you've got all that updated. And then you can upload the new license or the new medical card right here in the system. Same thing with the medical card, updating the issue date and the expiration date on this and actually getting this information in the system. You can do it that way. You can email it to us to your safety email, and we will do it for you. It's either way, that's helping us keep the information up to date. Same thing with the vehicles. Getting into a tractor, oh, we changed the unit number. And that happens all the time, especially with my line haul customers, where line haul changes the tractor number and we got to update it in the ELD. We got to update it here in our system and make sure that everything is correct. Because what happens with us is if we're working in the ELD and you know that the tractor numbers changed, the information and the data is going to be incorrect. But filling things in, like letting us know it's a solo vehicle versus a team vehicle, so we know when we're dealing with the logs that, oh, there should be a co-driver in the logs because they're in this vehicle. Whether or not you own or lease the vehicle, what the tag number is, what terminal is it assigned to. All of this information helps us manage the program more efficiently to understand what's going on with it. You know it. You're in it every day. You understand what's going on with your operation, but this information helps us manage it. Also helps us to manage with, okay, the vehicle make, I get into these discussions, my team gets into these discussions. I had a situation where a driver called up one day. We don't normally handle vehicle maintenance issues. We have the contractor contact their maintenance group. It could be FleetNet, it could be an outside maintenance thing. But this driver had a situation where the marker lights went out, and the driver um, called. I actually got the call. I'm talking to him, and I said, "You got a fuse that went out." And I was able to look here, and I said, "Oh, you're in a Volvo. The fuse panel is in the top dash of that Volvo." Of course, the driver pushed back on me and goes, "Sir, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not doing this, and you need to call roadside." And I said, whatever the driver's name is, I said, "Driver, we're going to change that fuse real quick. Open the fuse panel, pop it open." I pulled the schematics. I said, "You need to pull out this fuse, replace it with that fuse." What happened in that situation is because I had the information, I was able to solve the problem without calling roadside assistance on there. And that's a rare thing, but I'm just giving you an example of what happened there to get that problem fixed because we had the information. Then getting the right registration in here, that came up recently where the cab card that we had was a different one that the driver had. He got a roadside, he got a violation. Making sure we have this, making sure we have an updated annual inspection. I've had two trucks stopped at midnight where the line haul folks did not have the up-to-date annual inspection. The truck got stopped, and we're having to make those decisions in the middle of the night to get this stuff in there. So help us by putting this information in the system and helping us to keep that information up to date with the current registration, the current annual inspection, making sure you give us a new insurance card. You go, "Oh, I'm going through my renewal and I just got through it. I got my new insurance card." Remember to send us a copy of that so we have it. So again, if they get pulled over and for some reason it didn't get put into the tractor binder, that we have it, that we can send it to the driver and say, "Oh, here's the insurance card. Here it is right here." It makes it, again, more efficient to do that. Then on the safety, what a lot of our accounts do is are watching this score here, their fleet score, and we have a lot of managers that will push back on us that said, "Look, I was a 92.7% last month, and now I'm down to a 90%." They reach out to our account managers and go, "What's going on with that?" And we talk to them and go, "Oh, you had this driver that had a situation that their camera was obstructed on a day and caused 8 events," or you had a driver on the last day of the month that had 7 speeding events that tanked the score. But having those discussions is then the strategy talks, the actual risk management of, "Okay, what do I need to do to fix this? All right, here's what we need to do. We've sent the coaching to the driver. We've talked to the driver. We're doing this. Maybe we should do another discussion with the driver with you, or you have a discussion with the driver, or it may be two or three drivers." Had this happen recently where the manager of the accounts going, "I'm really struggling with speeding. I just can't get it through to these guys." All right, well, let's schedule a driver meeting this Sunday and let's do this. I don't have a problem with doing that on trying to solve the problems. But again, it's teamwork. It's your managers looking at this stuff, asking questions on, "What do I need to do? What can I do to help you to solve the problem?" And some of those discussions are, "Man, you got a bad driver here. You just need to get rid of that driver. They're not listening to us. They're not listening to you." That's just a real problem on that. Remember on the incidents, I get this a lot when an accident or an incident happens. Uh, I'll get a call, I'll get a text, I'll get an email that says, I need the VEDR footage, I need this, I need that. It's in the system. So what happens when we get an accident? It comes in on our connected systems with Motive or Lytics. We get it almost instantaneously within usually a few minutes. We know about the accidents. And then what does our team do? They stop everything. They call the driver, take a statement. They download the video, tell the driver to take pictures. They get the latitude and longitude. They get the weather report. They get all the stuff for the accidents. And it doesn't matter the severity of the accident, because the way I teach my team is the smallest incident is going to turn into the biggest nightmare. It always does. It's the one that we tap the car in front of us at the red light. There's no damage to the car. The driver says, I'm fine. A week later, they're watching TV at 11 o'clock, eating their Cheetos on their couch, and they see a commercial that says from a lawyer, a law firm that says, have you been hit by a big truck? And they go, why, yes, I have. And they make a big claim out of that. They all of a sudden have neck and back pain and all that, but we have the information in the system. So you log into the system, go to the incident, and then you can just start downloading what you need. If you've got line haul asking for certain things, give them what they want. If they're asking for the VEDR video, we create a video that's 1 minute before, 1 minute after. Give them that video. Download it. It's in the system, and we're operating in real time on this. And usually within about an hour, we have most of this done with getting all this information. We do get crash reports. Crash reports are an anomaly because based on the jurisdiction, it could be 7 to 10 days before we get the crash report. So if you're going, well, we need a crash report. Okay, let us know that. We can upload it to the system. We ask from the jurisdiction, whatever police department or sheriff department or highway patrol, whoever we're dealing with, to get the crash report. We get it because it helps us to see if we can dispute an accident with adding additional information on that. If it's a severe accident, a major injury, a fatality, multiple vehicle crash, it could be 6 to 12 months before we get that crash report. That is normal. That is a normal thing in the motor carrier world, that it takes time for them to do their investigation and publish that report. But I want you to know that the accident information is here. So then on your drivers, remember this is my demo account, so it's a little lopsided, is this section here is telling you, going back to that 80-20 rule, where the 20% of drivers are. And anybody that's on this list, you need to be really thinking what's going on with that. So I have discussions with accounts, and what they call it is drivers on the list. So they may have a driver with following distance problems or speeding problems, whatever the issue is. And they say, okay, we talk about it in January and the driver is on the list. They're a low performing driver. Then we have a discussion in February and we talk about the same driver, and my good accounts, what they do is they go, yeah, we're going to terminate that driver because, obviously they didn't fix the issue in January. Now they're on our list in February, and we had the same problems. The driver's just not getting it. And that's after we've had discussions, we've done everything that we can do. And that's why I always tell accounts, and especially for my smaller accounts, I say this a lot, is you always need to be recruiting. Get you a one-page website. That website is, only thing you need on that website is for obtaining new drivers. Get the drivers, have two or three drivers in the batter box. The discussion with drivers is, I don't have an opening for you today. You have some good qualifications. I know that you could be a good fit here, and I would love to get you on board. But we have openings that happen all the time. We get drivers that leave. We get drivers that don't perform well. And can I keep you on my short list so I can call you? Sure, keep me on the short list. That way, when you get these problematic drivers, that you can get them out of your system. Same thing as dealing with yesterday with the driver that had three accidents. Not all three accidents were that driver's fault, but there's a thing in the motor carrier world. I call it bad karma. Driver's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. It just happens. And you just got to get a driver like that out of your system because they're going to keep having those accidents and things like that. But that strategy will help you with understanding what's going on and looking at their scores, seeing what's going on with their scores to figure it out. I'll show you the app in a few minutes, and I'll tell you some strategies on what some of our customers are doing with the app, which I thought was brilliant on handling the scores there. Then go into the ELD and the camera events. So in our world, the absolute bane of our existence is form and manner. It's the easiest thing for the driver to do, but it seems to be the most difficult thing for them to do. That's filling in the shipments, that's putting in their trailers, and that's certifying their logs. They've got to do it. We got the new hours of service summary indicator with the line haul group. We got the potential for roadside violations, which are 34 points apiece on the line haul group for every single hours of service violation. So, we've got to solve this problem. And it's just one of those things where I keep seeing it over and over again. We provided handouts, we had training on this, we talked to the drivers, but where I need operations help from is to talk to your drivers and just basically take the attitude with them that says, if you don't put in the right thing in the shipments, if you don't put your trailer numbers in there, and if you don't certify your logs, I'm not going to be able to keep you here any longer. And helping us put that hammer down on them to say, this is a no-go. You've got to do that. The second thing is the 30-minute break. Across our network, the 30-minute break is the number one violation that we have inside the ELD, and making sure that if they're in yard move, that they take, what I tell everybody is tell your drivers to make sure that they do 35 minutes and then do all that. But as you can see, if your managers are watching this, then when they're seeing this, the driver's receiving an automatic coaching on this, and they're either taking the attitude of, okay, I'll fix that, or the other attitude is they're ignoring it and not taking care of it. So a quick discussion from your manager to go, driver, dude, you're not putting in your shipment. Get that done. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I was doing that, or whatever it is. If we just do this push, we're going to do a lot better job with that. But that workflow you see with from your managers, just a quick call. And I see that with our accounts that have their BC or their AO or their safety person, whatever, that's looking at our data and just that quick little discussion. Again, you have the ultimate power, the ultimate hammer. You write their paychecks. Same thing with the camera events. When you're looking at those events, you hit ELD here, you hit camera here, and you see these things right here. Things from the managers you should be looking at. For the line haul group, 65 miles an hour is the contract speed. If you see speeding events over 70 miles an hour, that should be a huge red flag for your operation. Why? Your driver has an accident and you produce a VEDR video with any speed above your contract speed, you're facing serious consequences on that. And that's a problem. So when I see these things, and a lot, I see it as in California, where the state speed limit in California is 55 miles an hour for every commercial vehicle, everyone. They get on the road going into Rialto. They're doing 65 miles an hour. That's the speed limit. They get caught 10 miles over the speed limit. You get a driver gets in an accident on that, showing over the speed on there, even though it's contract speed is 65, you're going to have serious issues. So your manager's looking at that because the other thing I want your managers to be thinking about on speed, did my driver do something to take the governing out of that? And I talk to a lot of new contractors, they'll go, well, all my trucks are governed. Okay, well, did you know for $50 at a truck stop, a driver can have somebody hook up a laptop to it and take it off? Did you know a driver can go down Interstate 77 in West Virginia on the backside of a mountain and throw it out of gear and go 83 miles an hour, which I have seen on more than one occasion? That is what you're looking for. That is the management you want to look for because you think your trucks are governed, but your driver's doing things that is going to get you in a major issue. Other discussion I talk to the drivers about on speeding is when you have multiple speeding events, you go, hey, driver, I just want to talk to you, have a quick call. You got lucky. You got 3 speeding events, you didn't get caught. If you get caught, you're going to get safety disqualified. And I do not know if I'm going to be able to save you. You're going to lose your job out of my control over this. And having discussions, helping us with discussions like that attitude with your drivers as a whole, saying, look, if you keep doing this and you get caught on this, you're going to get disqualified, and I may or may not be able to save you, and you're going to be out of the system. And doing that is going to get you better results on all that. So that's why it's really helpful to really get into that with your drivers and do that. Other thing is on roadside inspections. So your roadside inspections are here and you can click into the inspection and see what we're doing. If violations are found on a roadside inspection, my DOT guy is looking at your inspection. He looks at them every day when they come in and they're uploaded into the system. And he looks at them to see what we can do on a data queue challenge. So what do I need your help with? Number one is talking to your drivers, is, making sure in your policies and the way that you communicate with your drivers that says, if you get stopped for a roadside inspection, you need to call the safety number immediately. You got pulled over, call the safety number because we're there to help them. They may be struggling to transfer the logs. They may not have their license or whatever, having that. We can have a discussion with them. Driver, I need your help on asking the officer politely about taking pictures of the defect. So it goes something like this. Officer, do you mind if I jump out? You're saying there's a problem with the tire on the trailer. Do you mind if you can show me that on the tire? And can I take a picture of it? Now, on a rare occasion, the officer may go, nope, I don't want you out of the cab. Okay, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Just let us know that, all right, the officer said no and all that. But if we can get the pictures, what we're doing behind the scenes is we're downloading the VEDR video, getting those pictures, and then doing the data queue using that information on doing that. We're winning the data queue challenges on some of those because the officer has a really poor attitude on the stop. It also tells us that the driver had a really poor attitude. I had one driver in South Carolina that got pulled over. He pulls his rose-colored sunglasses down. The South Carolina Highway Patrol officers up on the passenger door, And the first thing the driver says to the officer is, "Why the hell did you pull me over?" Well, you can tell from the inspection, it was a 3 hour stop. He took the truck apart on the side of the highway, and the list of violations was huge just because the driver had that. But having the VEDR video and all that helped us with understanding what we were dealing with in that stop. So, helping us with talking to your drivers, if they call you and they go, "Look, I just got pulled over," great. Hang out with me, call the safety number, talk to us, and then we can handle it from there. And then just know from behind the scenes, we're doing all the data cues on this. And I'm going to be upfront with you. We don't win all of them. We win a larger portion than normal because of this procedure of getting the photos, getting the VEDR video, getting timely notification of this. The other thing you got to understand about inspections, and I want you to talk to your drivers about this, is there's a 15-day requirement on that roadside inspection to sign it and turn it in to the FMCSA. If your driver doesn't give you that notification, then you're going to miss that, and then that can be problematic with the FMCSA. Another thing that happens is we'll talk to a driver on a roadside inspection, and they go, "Well, the officer didn't give me anything. I don't have a roadside inspection. They didn't give me a ticket. They don't do this." And then we'll talk to the driver 2 days later, and lo and behold, he has it all. He has the inspection. He has a ticket he got for being in the third lane. He's got, um, all the paperwork. And I go, "Well, where was this 2 days ago?" "Well, I didn't know that was what you were asking for." Give me any documentation that that officer handed to you. Finally, I've had a few roadside inspections recently where the officer did not give the driver anything, and they did it electronically. And what happens, especially in the line haul space, line haul gets notification in real time. And I don't know if you know this. So from the public view of the violations under the line haul DOT number, we have a 30-day delay on seeing what's doing that. Line haul has a live view of their inspection. So I get this discussion with managers that go, "Well, this happened. When do you think line haul is going to know about it? Or do you think I need to report it to line haul?" Line haul is going to know about it as soon as the officer uploads the information in the system, usually within about 24 hours. Now, there can be a delay. Let's say the officer does a roadside inspection today and he does a few of them. He goes, "Man, I got to catch up on those reports." He's typing his reports, and it could be the next day or the day after he uploads the report into the portal. Then line haul knows about it about 24 hours later. Then your line haul manager finds out about it. Then they call you and go, "What the heck's going on with this roadside?" Remember what happens in a lot of those roadsides. There's violations or tickets for third lane violations or speeding or cell phone or whatever it is. They're going to safety disqualify your driver. So there's a lot of things we're doing on behind the scenes is, okay, now I got a driver that's safety disqualified. Here's the workflow on that. Don't send us an email that your driver's safety disqualified. Call your safety email. Call your safety phone number. "Hey, I got a driver that's safety disqualified. What do I need to do?" What's line haul saying? They're letting us do curative training. Okay, do they want curative training on your driver, or do they want curative training on all your drivers? Because that happens a lot, especially in disconnects and door pull situations like that. "Oh, well, let me talk to line haul." Call line haul. "Yeah, they want the driver retrained, and they want all our drivers retrained." Okay, so that changes from a curative letter to a letter of assurance, because that's what line haul's really asking you. They're asking for a letter of assurance from you now, saying that not only did we take care of the driver, we took care of all of the drivers. Then for the managers, talking to your drivers, talk to the original driver. Now you're forcing all the other drivers to do this training because you didn't do the right thing. you know, Building on that this is why it's important that you do the right procedures because you're going to get us in these situations that's going to cause us to have to write these letters of assurance and train everybody over something everybody already knows. And then what we're doing behind the scenes in that situation is got to call the driver. I've talked to the manager. The manager says, got my driver safety disqualified. Call the driver, assign the training to you. You need to do it ASAP. Driver does training. Then I have to write the curative letter or the letter of assurance. Write all that, get it back to the lead manager that called it in on, get that letter to them, get it to line haul, get everybody back in to business so your cash register, aka your tractor, starts moving again. So that's what's going on in real time behind the scenes on all this is we're trying to move as quickly as possible. Where can you help us in that? Hey, you got safety disqualified driver. I've let safety know this. They're going to assign curative training to you. You need to do that training at ASAP because what happens a lot of times is we'll call the driver, they don't answer us. And then they're just sitting there on this and not doing it. But you being in the operations, helping us with that to, you know, driver, look out for this, get it done so we can get moving on that. Boy, I got on my soapbox on that, didn't I? Um, Going into the drivers. Again, on the homepage, you had the do not dispatch. If you see this link right here that we have missing information, click on this link. It'll tell you the same information from the do not dispatch list for the drivers, what's missing. When you're in a driver record, you've got their safety score here, and you're looking for what their problems are. The drivers are looking at their safety score in the driver app, which I'll show you in a minute. That's a good thing. Number one, the reason we put the safety score in the driver app is to take the mystery out of what's going on between your managers and your drivers on safety. So there is no mystery anymore. It's right in there. So I had a driver and I was down in South Florida visiting a terminal, and I had a safety meeting with the drivers down there. And after the meeting, the driver came up to me and he had 100% the previous month, and he got an event for unsafe parking in the emergency lane. And he was mad. He squared off with me. He goes, I don't agree with this. He said I had to pull in the safety lane into the emergency lane. I had to do a regen, and I just had to do it. And then I had to explain to him. I said, driver, I said, the reason you got dinged on that is a very unsafe practice to pull over in the emergency lane. I know there's situations that we have to pull over in the emergency lane. This was not one of those situations. I said, I've had two very bad fatality accidents where a driver was in an emergency lane and got rear-ended in the back of the trailer, and families perished in those accidents. It's because you were in the emergency lane. And, I know in Florida, we got this new law in here that you have to move over one lane for anything in the emergency lane. It doesn't matter if it's an abandoned car. You're in Florida, you have to move over regardless. It used to be just, emergency vehicles and tow trucks and that kind of stuff. Now in Florida, it's that, but it's not in every state that way. And what's happening is we're having these horrific accidents on that. But because I was able to have that discussion, same thing I'm asking for your managers to do is have those discussions with your driver. He calmed down. He goes, I never thought about that. I never really considered that. He goes, I was just thinking I got to pull over, do this regen, get it done, and get going. And I mentioned to him, I said, could you have just gone to the next exit and gone down the on-ramp and safely crossed over to on the off-ramp and to the on-ramp and park? He goes, yeah, I could have done that. There you go. You wouldn't have been in the same situation there. So that's what the data and looking at it, and my good managers doing that and looking at this stuff. Another thing about looking at the data that's real helpful for the managers is learning. I've been doing this, I'm going on 37 years now, and I learn something new every day. I had a BC manager recently. He's been a safety manager for years, years. And we were talking about the data, and he goes, I keep having drivers having problems on my bumps because the other driver is late. And I said, are the drivers in a sleeper? He goes, yeah. And I said, will you split sleeper berth? He goes, what? I said, yeah, if you use split sleeper berth, that extends the driver clock. So the 3 hours the driver was waiting at the bump, he could have been in split sleeper berth. He meets the minimum of that split with the 3 hours. That extended his clock. This manager, again, I think he had 25 years of experience. He goes, man, I never even thought about that. And I said, that's why looking at the data and having those discussions with us to go, I keep having this problem. So he immediately talked to all his drivers on those bumps and go, when you get there, use the sleeper berth. Park, do that. And it was a situation where it was happening to that driver almost every time. And the other driver that was coming in on the bump, it wasn't that driver's fault. It was the trailers were not being um, available when they were supposed to be. But those little strategies, those discussions is what helps on this. It's all these nuances that go on with this, and we have all of our team, we have accidents that happen where I call up my DOT officer at night and go, this is what happened. This is what I think we should do. I had this happen last night. I had a driver that had got stuck on the side of the road. His trailer had a problem. Called FleetNet. He was on the side of the road for 4 hours. He had lost his hours. He was not in a sleeper. He was in a day cab. So sleeper berth does not work because the first thing you have to have is a sleeper for that to work. And the BC called me at 8 o'clock last night and says, I want to use adverse conditions. Well, you can't use adverse conditions for that. So we had to have the driver annotate the log that properly on that to roll in. I mean, the real thing that should have happened was we roll another driver out there to go rescue the driver. That's the safest thing to do. We didn't have that option last night. So, but having that discussion in real time on that to say, what do I need to do? Have the driver annotate the log that he was got a roadside situation where he was stopped for 4 hours. He was there, his log, but documenting the log correctly is a non-flagrant violation. So if that driver got caught because he was running in violation last night coming in. If he got caught, it would have been a minor violation versus if he put adverse conditions or personal conveyance, he would have had a falsification of law. He'd have had 30 CSA points on doing that versus doing the right thing. So it's that type of stuff of looking at this stuff, talking to us about this stuff so we can help you out to run legally and more efficiently on that. So getting back to the drivers here, making sure, when the hire date is, what terminal they're running out of helps us a lot. Keeping their phone number and their email up to date, updating their license and medical card. There's a timeline here that would show all the things that have happened to the driver in the last 7 days. Their driver history is here. They've got, what their roadside inspection. Oh, they got a clean inspection there. We got an ELD event. What's going on here? You can view it. You can see what the notes are in there. Camera event. What's going on with that? on our connected systems. So Motive and Lytics right now are connected systems. For the majority of the events that come into our system, the actual video footage is in our system. So that helps you manage the program a lot better than having to log into Motive or Lytics or anything like that, that you can actually see the video in here. And I get into a lot of discussions with managers about, well, we got lane departure, we've got hard braking and things that really aren't a KI event. We're looking at those to see if it's really unsafe behavior. So hard braking, I had a manager yesterday told me, yeah, I got a hard braking event, but it's because the light changed on me. Okay, understand that. But I had another driver out of Houston that for some reason he thought he could stop a tractor trailer in 20 feet every day. And so his hard braking was all through the charts on that to where, okay, then I had to call the BC, say, what's going on with this driver? Figured out he drives his personal car the exact same way. So we had to talk to him about that on a strategy, but it took both sides of it. It took me, my side, it took the BC side, to solve the problem. The system is wonderful. It's doing great things on all the data, but as you're seeing as I'm going through this discussion, there's a lot going on with that. Then on here, you can put in a driver, update information, your vehicle, put in a new accident. Again, on an accident or roadside inspection, you can put it in, but I really would rather you call the safety number. That is the best thing because of everything I've said in this discussion today. You can see there's a lot going on. We're thinking, is your driver disqualified? What do we need to do? Do we need to get curative training? Do we need to do this? Are there injuries involved? Is there, a speeding ticket that we need to deal with on this? Does your driver have a third lane violation? It's better to call us on this. Feel free to update it, but what you can do in here is through this menu here, you can add them in there and it helps. On the driver side, you can change the driver status here on whether they're active, inactive, whatever's going on with the driver. Again, keeping the system clean on that. So as you can tell, we kept the software very simple. However, there is a million things going on behind the scenes trying to validate the data, figuring out what's going on, what's the best solution for your driver, what's the best solution for your operation, what we can do to get the drivers to stop having the issues that they're having, and making your operation safer on that. Now let me talk about the driver app a little bit. We have the vehicle inspections. We call it the pre-trip inspection, but it can be used for the pre-trip inspection and post-trip inspection. We have the connection photos, we have the training, and then we have the My Safety. When I was talking about that one driver a minute ago with the being in the emergency lane, what he did is he pulled up his phone, opened the app, and showed me his safety score from the app. And that was the strategy that a manager that I worked with that I thought was brilliant. So in his operation, he has a driver incentive program. And what he does with his drivers is he calls them into his office. He has the driver open the app on the driver's phone, navigate to their safety score, and have the safety discussion with their driver. I thought that was brilliant to do that. Number one, it reinforces the driver to actually be in the app. And, like the driver that I was talking about a few minutes ago in the emergency lane, he's watching his app. He was mad that he had one incident and it only went down to, I think, 99.45, but he was ticked off about that. But using that strategy really helps with hammering it home to the driver to be watching that. Again, we're trying to remove the mystery between you, the managers, and your drivers. And I thought that was just a brilliant strategy that that manager came up with, is simply having the driver open the app, look at their score, and having those discussions. Now, the second part of that is, let's say you and your operation decide that on the driver score that the passing grade for safety is 90%. Okay. Then you can have the discussion, driver, you're at 88%. Here's what's going on. You're not hitting your training the right way. You've got too many following distance on this, and some of those strategies are, I drive out of 303 in Atlanta in traffic. And have you ever been in Atlanta traffic, sir? Yeah. And it's terrible. I look at the other drivers. Well, the other 18 drivers in the same market are not having a following distance problem. So it's one of two things. Either the camera needs to be recalibrated, it's a camera problem, or it's a driver problem. Usually what I find out is a driver problem. They drive their personal car that way. But having this open and discussing with your drivers on that is going to make your operation better on that. When the other thing is on the driver training, and I'm going to talk about this because I get a lot of pushback on this, and I'm going to tell you what to tell your drivers. The way our system works is the driver logs into the app and they have to put an email address in. And then the email, once they put their email address in, it sends them a code. There's a lot of reasons for that. Inside the app is their medical card and their license. I don't want drivers sharing a login. I have some contractors that put the driver app on the ELD tablet. It's fine to do that, but I want the driver to be able to log in to what they need to get to and all that. So the pushback I hear is my driver's not good with email. So what I want you to tell your drivers is, to work in the line haul space, you have to have an email because you can't work the mobile trip app without that. To be a commercial driver, you can't be in the FMCSA clearinghouse without an email. I do not accept that excuse. And I say it just like this. You must use an email. And that's the way it is. That's the way our world is in handling this, is they have to do that. The same discussion is with the driver that says, I'm not good with technology. Those are the drivers that we have problems with using the ELD tablet right. They're having this. You've got to have discussions with your drivers to tell them, to say, that is not acceptable. I know, personally, I know the driver is able to log into their online banking to make sure they got paid this Friday, because they're doing that. And what are your banking apps? Think about your banking apps. Every one that I had, you have to put your information in and you have to get a code to get in there. So they're doing that. They're having to get into their social media. Two-factor again on most every one of those. They're having to do it. Do not accept the excuse from them that I can't do this. They have to do it. Same thing with getting in their clearinghouse or using the mobile trip app. We get calls about, I need to reset my mobile trip app. What do I have to do on all this? But you've got to do it. It just has to happen. Other thing about the training is to make sure that you set your parameters in our system that the drivers get the training done by the 15th of the month. That way we don't have a driver going to the end of the month, sitting on the tarmac at 8 p.m., trying to get the training done. Make sure they get it done. Now, for my owners and the big bosses on the phone call, you need to talk to your managers, your BCs and all that, to lead by example. What do I mean by that? If you have a driving BC, I want them to log in on the first of the month and get the training done. It's leading by example. There's a couple of reasons for that. If they do that, they understand what the subject is. So, like the training for this month is on the reasons that trailers disconnect, the actual reasons of why that is. So, if the manager on the 1st of February looks at that training video as they're talking to their drivers throughout the month, hey, you need to get in there and get that training video done because hey, I learned that if you hook up the dolly to the lead trailer pintle hook in the wrong order, the safety pin won't set and it'll cause a disconnect. You see what I'm saying there is it's the manager is doing that stuff. So getting them to do it on the 1st of the month, then talking to the drivers, I expect by the 7th of the month that we're done. We're good. Y'all have questions? Do we need to have clarification? Do we need to go out to the tarmac and put two trailers together and practice on this? This is what I'm talking about on this training that you guys can help us out with on the opposite where we're trying to get the BC to do it at the end of the month or they haven't done it or they don't see what's going on. So I highly encourage all of my managers to look at the training at the beginning of the month so they can know what to talk about. I come up with safety memos and things like that. It could be one of those things that you reach out to the safety email with us and you go, wow, on that training, is there some way that you can send us something extra for this? Or can we have a driver meeting about this or whatever? That's what I'm talking about to get this train going down the right track on that. Now, going back to the system, so you see here on the training under the safety tab, the training is right here. So you can actually see where your drivers are on the training for the month. And then the training library is right here. And look, you can assign training right here. You got something you want your driver to take different, pick something out of the library that works. Once you assign it, it's going to show a notification in the app to the driver, and they'll be able to, oh, I got a new training. This is what's happening in the curative training world when a driver gets safety disqualified. We go in the system, we assign the training, driver gets the notification, they log into their app, they get the training done. We see it's back in the system here. Oh, driver's done it. We're good. Then I start on the curative letter or the letter of assurance or whatever we need to do to complete that. Now, on the training, another thing is, and I had this happen with a manager may be on this call, and we had set the parameters for the account that all training had to be done by the 15th of the month. The manager did the training after the 15th of the month, got 100% on the training, but got an 80% in the system. We had that built into the algorithm. I want you to know that. So when you're working on your drivers and talking about getting the training done in the beginning of the month, that's what you want to do. So when I talked to that manager and clarified that, then she goes, oh, okay. So it solved that. But I want to mention that to make sure that you understand that even though that the person may get 100%, if it's after what the parameters are on the due date, it's going to ding them a percentage on that. So then the last thing is the DVIRs and all that. Your defects are here. You open it up. We should have it put in the system. So let's say you want it to go to the BC, you want it to go to my outside mechanic, you want it to go to wherever, we need the air traffic control on that. So if you're using this, it's showing up here. And then this is where anything that has a defect, what I call a dirty DVIR, and then your completed DVIRs, and then your connection photos are here. With the connection photos, we only need them for the driver to survive the trip. There's no reason, there's no record retention. I mean, we're keeping them for a while, but there's no record retention needed if, the driver survives the trip and there was no um, defect there. I do encourage all of you to make sure that this is enabled on the driver app of doing the connection photos. If the driver refuses to do the connection photos and you have a disconnect, I can't save your driver. They're gone. They're going to get safety disqualified and they're going to get out of the system. And that's going to be problematic for you. I get drivers that say, I'm not getting under a trailer to take the picture of the locked fifth wheel. Go to Dollar Tree and get a selfie stick, for them. Tell them to get the selfie stick, put their phone on the selfie stick and take the picture. We get into these discussions where they throw up these roadblocks, and then what I'm dealing with behind the scenes is I'm dealing with 2 trailer disconnects a week. It's getting ridiculous. And a lot of it is what I put in the training this month is they're not doing the right things on connecting the trailers the correct way. And then they're not taking the pictures to cover themselves on this. Last thing on the pictures here and the pictures in the pre-trip, I had this happen with another account. And I hate that I'm even saying this. The pre-trip inspection said, take a picture of the mud flaps. So what did the human do? Took a picture of the mud flap. But what was on the mud flap? An 8-inch wide hole in the mud flap. Have your managers talk to your drivers. You've got to have the BCs and your other managers check and balance. Driver does their inspection. The managers should be doing a second check of the equipment. So if you are looking at the inspections here and you see a picture in here of a mud flat, but it has an 8-inch hole in it, you need to be getting on your driver. So what we're trying to do that with the drivers on that and trying to work with doing that. But if you'll put that system in place, some of our smaller contractors, they don't have it, but get a lead driver to check the trucks. I mean, you're having people take trucks to the truck wash. You're having them taking it to the maintenance shop. You're having them do different things. Have them look at the trucks. And I've also had where managers don't want to do that. And you're going to have to make some management changes if that happens. But if you'll put that 2-step process in where you got your drivers doing your inspections, the managers are looking at it, they're checking the trucks on the lot, they're checking the inspections on this, you're going to have a lot fewer roadside violations. And I will tell you, in the line haul space, a vehicle maintenance roadside violation is 45 points, the exact number of points as an accident. So if you're struggling with those roadside violations, that's the secret, is watching these inspections, making sure your drivers are doing the right thing, checking these defects, signing off on them, and getting them done. All right. Let me look at some questions here. Okay, I have a question here that says, I have multiple operations and drivers sometimes driving for different companies. How best do we make sure the drivers are only listed for one company? Sometimes I have the same driver listed in multiple companies. And that's a great question. We have this happen on what we really want is pick the driver that is their main domiciled place. We know that we're going to have drivers pop over to different, and It's not easy for us behind the scenes, but just pick the domicile terminal and leave it as that, and that's the best thing you can do for us. Um, and then the next question is, can I send a link to the driver app? Yes, if that person would email that request in, I'm not sure. I see it as anonymous. If you'll send that to me, um, that'll help, and I'll be happy to do that. But anyway, I appreciate it, and I hope this was helpful for you. We are doing this every month. We are making some changes to the software in the very near future. We're moving more of the risk management to the front of the dashboard. I push back to the developers that I want my managers, my account managers, to be able to see without searching through a bunch of stuff, what do I need to be focused on? That's what we're pushing to the front of the page there. So when your managers log in, it's going to say, this driver is a problem, this driver is a problem, and the reason why, this is what you need to do. And that way it'll make it a lot easier for your managers to just jump in here. Finally, I get this a lot, well, John, you're talking about all this stuff and my manager's got to do this. It's really not that much. When I talk to these managers, the manager that logs in every morning, he's drinking his cup of coffee, he's spending 5 minutes looking at everything. Oh, I need to talk to this driver. I need to text this driver, doing that. That's what I'm talking about. That's all it is. Now, the problematic drivers where they're having to pick up the phone and call us, and, I am struggling with this driver. What do we need to do? That's more involved, but that's really what we want to deal with there, is to help you with that and all that. Anyway, I really appreciate everything. Feel free to email us and reach out through your safety number on the things that you're struggling with. It's helps us because your operation, what you're struggling the most on. It helps us to reach out to us and go, I'm struggling on this. What I'm telling the drivers is not working. What can I do to try to do this? And we may try one thing. Okay, that didn't get what we wanted. Let's try something else. Okay, that we got a better improvement on that. Let's try something else. That's really what we're all about, is figuring out the solutions for you. I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate y'all working with us and helping us manage this better. Y'all have a great day.